Hello, Loveland. I'm Mike Meldon, and this is your Loveland Weekly Podcast, brought to you by Gina Dubell-Smith, eXp Realty, and Stone Pillars Farm. As we move into this political season, I thought it was important to look at a few different aspects of Loveland politics. So, today you're going to hear my conversation with Dave Kennedy, Loveland's city manager. Now, if you've listened to my podcast for a while, you'll know that I'm a big fan of Dave's. Not long after I moved to where I live now, I contacted Dave, having never met him or knowing anything about him. I had a simple request, fairly simple, from the city. I asked that they replace the grill and picnic table in the part of East Loveland Nature Preserve that is near my condominium. It had been vandalized and knocked over and this and that. And so I contacted the city. I think I just did a simple email asking for someone to kind of take a look at it. Now, as most of us would assume, and I assumed, that this request would take some kind of time. They got to the email, it might be pushed aside. I know they're busy down there, and they'll get to it at some point. I think that would be status quo for most communities. But Dave Kennedy does things different here in Loveland. After I emailed the city, he contacted me personally within a day or so and said that he wanted to come over and walk with me to see what I was looking for to make the little section of the park better. He came out to my condo. We took a walk. I showed him what I was talking about. We got to know each other a little bit better. And then he got to work fulfilling my request. And since then, I've been the chairman of Loveland's Tree and Environment Committee. I was also on the Park and Rec Board working with Dave, and then I've also worked with Dave through different capacities, like through my organization, Love Our Land. Through it all, Dave has been the same. He's been the guy that I can rely on. He's the guy that I know if I call, he's going to give me a call back. He gives me time, and it's not me. Anyone, any citizen of Loveland that has an issue that needs to talk to our city manager, he's going to give you the time. He'll come to you, or you can go in his office, or he'll talk to you on the phone. That's the kind of guy Dave is. And you can't take that for granted, because that is not how it happens in a lot of communities. We are truly lucky. He's a treasure. He listens to people and truly cares about what the people of Loveland think. He will take the time with you and try his best to grant whatever it is that you're looking for to make your time here in Loveland better. He is the man mainly behind modern Loveland. Yes, there have been teams, his team at City Hall, councils, current council, previous councils, committees, everybody helps make it, but he's the man behind it all. And he knows there are problems still that exist, and he strives daily to help meet all of those concerns. He works hard on them, and a couple of them we get into during this conversation. He's working daily to make our town even better. So in our conversation, you're going to hear a little bit about Dave, who he is personally, and he'll explain to us his position and role as the city manager of Loveland. I hope you enjoy our conversation. And thank you, Dave, for meeting with me again.
So I've actually been in public service for now 3 years. I worked in Delhi Township during graduate school and worked in New Richmond for 25 years. And in September, I'll have been with the city for 11 years. So basically a hardcore West Side Cincinnati guy and
LaSalle guy, right?
LaSalle High School, yes.
Yep.
And grew up on the West Side, and that was sort of my roots. That's where a lot of my family's still over there. A lot of my LaSalle poker buddies are still over there. So
Nice.
That's a big part of my life. And still, I have an elderly mother, 95, who I'm still back over there a lot with her. But that's sort of my roots. I went to Miami University for undergrad, and I went to UC for graduate school.
Oh, yeah, and you worked in Delhi as an undergrad. That's where I grew up. So we got that little connection there. So
yeah,
I'm trying to tell people, we have especially around us, how many other cities or towns around us have the same local government that we do? Let's start out with that.
Well, I mean, the most comparable would be, Milford, Montgomery, towns like our size, which have a city manager form of government.
Okay.
Milford, Montgomery, Blue Ash, Mason. I mean, it's fairly typical we're in that size range where it
Okay.
works. Obviously, we function different in a township. Townships have administrators and three trustees rather than we have, we have the council members and the mayor form of government. But the day-to-day operations are seen or, are to be ran by the city, by the city manager.
Right.
And then the city manager has his various department heads, finance, police, fire, and then public works, and then under them, so on and so forth. And of course, I have Chris as my assistant city manager. And so we're fairly typical with how we operate. We are a chartered city, and the city adopted their charter back, I believe, in the 60s. And the charter is the way for a city to say, okay, there is the Ohio Revised Code, but we think we would be a more efficient government if we do this, if we elect our council members this way, if we hold our first meeting this way, so on and so forth. So those are constantly customized. I was a part of one charter amendment. It's really an interesting process. I think it took us about 14 months.
Wow.
Then that is presented to the voters. They can vote it down or not. And even how you send it to the voters, it has to be very specific, full text, before and after, paragraph by paragraph. So that was a pretty interesting process. We made a few changes there. Nothing monumental. Little things. Back in the old days, the finance director did not work under the city manager. Council felt that would be a more effective form. There were some other small changes, but nothing monumental like the one in the beginning. But it dictates committees and so on and so forth. So most of the more progressive cities have their own charter. And they just feel like it allows them to operate more efficiently. That's probably the best way to say it.
Yeah, and we have what makes us different too is the committees we have and the amount of committees we have. So can you talk a little bit about that and how you work with them?
Yeah, it's probably one of the neatest parts of the job. Again, one of the neat parts of my job is I get to deal with a lot of residents. I get to talk to a lot of residents. Loveland's not so big that you can't just call the city manager and talk to them, meet with them, and come in. But another neat part of it is all of the committees, from tree and environment to zoning, and under zoning you've got zoning board of appeals, you have the planning and zoning commission, you have a veterans committee, and there's so many committees that make up. We had a finance committee meeting last night. They're gearing up for the budget. We start that budget early, and they're like the oversight for what we do. They're that eye in the sky to say, hey, are we trending good? Are we trending low? Are our reserves good? So on and so forth. Hey, we've got a major purchase. We're going to take some debt out for a new fire station. They're that litmus test that sort of keep our eyes on the finance. It's transparency, but it's also comforting to know that you've got. And these people all have their individual traits. If you come to a law and ordinance meeting, many of them are lawyers. And when law and ordinance committee is writing the new tree code, or the law and ordinance committee is writing lighting ordinance, this is very down in the weeds type of thing. And those guys love it. They know it. They understand it. And they're supposed to vet these things out. And then ultimately, the city manager or the assistant city manager says, for the past 6 months, we've been working for the creation of this. Here you go. Now, it's with the recommendation. And of course, there's a member of council on that committee too. And just like there's a member of council on the planning and zoning commission, and so on and so forth. And then again, something that this city council did, and I think it's really to be commended, is I think they looked at the downtown district and they said, hey, this is something special. Obviously, people want to come down here. People want to renovate existing buildings. People want to build new buildings. Should we not put another layer of review? Should we not say, wait a second, we think that we should have a certain level of design review process? So the city council created the Historic Preservation and Planning Commission, and they review all new construction, new signs, any really external improvement to something in the downtown district. And that I think at times it's seen as something maybe in the way, but I could point to you numerous places where they've made adjustments. They really see themselves as, we're not here to tell you you can't do that, but we think, what if you do this, this, and this? Aesthetically, this will look better.
Right.
Hey, those signs are wonderful, but do you think maybe you could tone this color down, or that kind of thing?
Just a little bit of, like you
And
said, an eye in the sky, and it's public
yeah,
and citizens, right?
yeah, I can point out numerous things that they did, and I've seen people, I've seen new businesses embrace it. I'll use Pliable as a perfect example. They embraced the review process.
Mm-hmm.
They came and actually gave the HPPC different options. They took the old lighting, the sort of shepherd hooks lighting that was on the front of the building, and repurposed it to shine down on their signage. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that where the old candy store used to be is a perfect example of I think this is great. I'll actually implement it. So that was one of the times when I sort of thought, okay, this is really working. This is really working.
Yeah.
And so on and so forth. So we get to work with all the committees. Now, obviously, we're not able to go to 18 committee meetings
Right.
a month on top of council. So we sort of split them up. Misty works really good with the Arts Commission and the Veterans Commission. Sean Hartness will go to Tree and Environment. And then Chris and I sort of tag team all the other ones, and so on and so forth. And that's a big part of it. So man, you're talking about true volunteerism,
Mm-hmm.
because you're talking about people that aren't making a penny.
Mm-hmm.
At some point in time, have to tell large developers no.
Right.
You saw that with the Grail property.
Yep.
I mean, you saw what the planning commission and ultimately, what city council had to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're seeing the end result, right? You're
Right.
a beautiful park, Claremont County, a Cardinal Conservancy is going to be here forever.
Right.
And I mean, they have to make tough decisions, but they knew that going in. I've never once been on a committee and didn't think to myself, I mean, they know the role.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell they've read the packet.
Yep.
They know what they're doing. They know it's grassroots at its very best.
It is.
Really
It is. It's what makes us special. I agree with you. Yeah.
And I've seen it. And even little subcommittees. You look at the 4th of July,
Mm-hmm.
Misty and her group of people that work on that 4th of July have been working on it for months.
Yep.
I mean, those kind of events, Hearts of Fire, she's probably getting ready for it.
I was going to say, she's probably starting it already. Yeah.
Yeah, she's probably starting that. She will not be outdone. If she refuses to be outdone, she will always figure out a way to make it. They just met yesterday, and I was listening.
Yeah.
What do you think we should do next? What did we do wrong? What do we do better? And she's
awesome.
She's an incredible benefit to the city. And of course,
Definitely.
Chris, our assistant city manager, is another gem we have working for us.
So now we got elections coming up. So now let's talk about council. What is just for people, like I said, just general, what is the role of council and how do you work with them?
Well, I work with all of them, and it's obviously they're not doing it for the money.
Right.
I work very closely with the mayor. We talk regularly. We go over upcoming items and we talk about the agenda and things. And they have to make a lot of tough decisions, not only on projects, but I mean, when they approve the budget at the end of the year, that's the city's, that's our go.
Right.
Do these projects.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at this city council, for example, they did 4 master plans in a very short period of time, and every one of those master plans is working.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's one thing how do they work? Give us the money to implement them.
Yeah.
So the comprehensive plan said they wanted Loveland Madeira Road revitalized, and they wanted pedestrian improvements. They still wanted to see sidewalks.
Right.
Well, we just are now getting ready to start the 3rd phase of the Loveland Miamiville Road sidewalks. We just did sidewalks up on Osage that connects all of the heights to the Loveland High School. They just reviewed a Claremont County pedestrian plan. So that is a big part of what we do there. I'm not diminishing, but work, giving the city staff the funds, setting their council goals, which is a very cool process they do every 2 years. They go away and we meet and we talk about things and what do you want to do, and then city staff reports to them every quarter on what they do.
Right.
I'm Mike, this is a big part of my life. This is, my kids are grown. My son just got married, as a matter of fact. Obviously, I'm very close with all of the council members, but you can't also forget that the city has 50 plus employees, and the things that this is their livelihood. They're raising their kids, they're raising their families. So how do we make ourselves competitive? I mean, don't ever think that we don't have staff members here that could get drawn to another community.
Sure.
So there's also that whole level of, they've got staff, they've got people. This is their job. Our police department is very young. These guys are raising families, having kids, and don't think that the Montgomerys and the Wyomings and the others aren't. So they have to. What is our benefits package? What can we do to make sure that we're doing everything to keep people? We don't lose people.
Right.
We went through 6 finance directors in the course of about 7-8 years.
Wow.
And by getting Mark, for example, and the consistency in the finance department is integral. And that is very, very important. You keep chugging along, you forget about how important it is, but what happens? The city just keeps getting awards for their budgeting and for their financial transparency and so on and so forth. I hope Mark stays here many, many, many years, long after I'm gone. And my job is to deal directly with the department heads. I mean, safe to say we have one of the best fire departments in the entire state of Ohio. And part of that is council has to set their contract and give them the funds to proceed. And then it's Huber's job, in which he does damn well, to constantly tweak. What can we do next? Council council sets the tone that they want to put a school resource officer in LECC. Well, how does that work? Because that's not necessarily he's not that person. He or she is not going to be as active as the one at the high school. So it's the police chief's job to create the SRO/community resource officer. And then that person, and it's going to be a guy, Jesse, that makes it all work. And so that's sort of like, they set policy, staff implements it. That's about the best way I can do it.
No, that's
and
great.
They set policy through their goals, and they set policy versus what they choose to fund and what they choose to maybe defer. Right now, they're very committed to spending on the roads. We didn't spend enough, and now they do, and they're very committed to putting in sidewalks. People like them. And strategically, it would appear that people want sidewalks that ultimately connect to the downtown district. So if you sort of follow what they've been doing, that's sort of how they're doing it.
Perfect. Awesome, Dave. I think you summed it up well. I think people are, will have a better understanding of it. Anything else you want to add before we go?
No, I appreciate you calling me, and I really do. Again, I can't say enough about Chris, my assistant city manager. One of those topics that a lot of communities are dealing with is the PFAS in the water, and I don't know that anyone could walk in the door the way Chris has walked in the door, grab hold of a topic, and move forward the way he has. We'll soon be making a major announcement about funding for all the design. And I think part of that is Chris was able to do it because council gives them the freedom to do it. And I sort of felt like when it was very apparent that the timeline on having it all completed was going to be extended. I'm not. You got to think that some communities might have taken their foot off the pedal a little bit, and I don't think that that's obviously not something the city has done. So.
And I'll make sure that after you guys make that announcement, that I sit down with him and we can I can talk on a podcast, and we can explain everything then to the community. That'd be great.
Yeah, because he's a big reason why Warren County is so far, because that's where he came from.
Okay.
And he's the future. He's the future of the city, and he's a wonderful guy. I used to always think about the old Lebanon city manager was a a wonderful guy, but he was an engineer too, and he did a lot up there. And I always thought to myself, that is really a good combination for being a city manager.
Yeah.
And that's what Chris is. He's an engineer.
Gotcha.
So, well, thanks a lot, Mike. I appreciate it.
Hi, it's Anna back with your high school weekly update. It's officially the first full week of school for everyone, and I hope no one has too much work to do this week. But for athletics this week, we are super busy. So today, girls tennis versus Summit Country Day. Tomorrow, girls golf versus Lakota East and boys golf versus Little Miami. Girls tennis versus Little Miami and girls volleyball versus Anderson. Girls soccer versus Anderson as well. Wednesday, girls tennis versus Marymount, and Thursday, boys golf versus West Claremont, girls tennis versus West Claremont, and girls volleyball versus Little Miami at home, and boys soccer versus Anderson. Then Friday, there's football versus Harrison at home, and to end the week off, Saturday, cross country versus Lakota East, and girls volleyball versus Ursuline at home. I hope everyone has a great first week of school.
Looking ahead in Loveland, Whistle Stop Clayworks will hold the Loveland Art Festival on Saturday, September 6th from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. in the historic downtown district. The Art Festival, formerly known as the Pottery Affair, is in its 8th year and will have over 65 artist booths. I put this in my last podcast and I put it here again because honestly, you don't want to miss it. It's something special that we have going on downtown Loveland. It's really eclectic. You can find a lot of different great artists there and things to buy. So make sure you check it out. Plenty of parking. I know that's not said a lot, but it's located in such a great spot that there's so much parking around it. You want to make sure you grab the family and head on down to that. And if you have any events that you would like me to mention here on the podcast, please reach out to lovelandweekly@gmail.com. We have something truly special here in Loveland. Thank you for listening, and have a great week. This episode was produced and engineered by Mike Meldon right here in Loveland. And please note that the opinions expressed in the podcasts do not necessarily represent the views of our sponsors or organization.